Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Angelo Santabarbara, your host. Today we have a special guest with us from the Veterans of Foreign Wars post 1895 in my hometown of Rotterdam in Schenectady County. Ginger Kusek, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today, and we're anxious to hear about the VFW, and we're anxious to hear about your background. Why don't we start off with a little bit about your history and how you came to be the commander?
I grew up here in Schenectady. I went to Mount Pleasant High School, graduated in '77, and I immediately, about a year later, I joined the Army. And I did 16 years active duty with the Army, and then on my 18th year with the reserves, I got mobilized and went over to Kuwait. I had 2 young teenage boys, which was a challenge, and my husband stepped up. And when I came back, I was very busy, so I'm a federal employee working for the Army Reserve System and taking care of reservists. And started going to the post, became a member, and first year there, got to know people. And it came up for election time, and election is simply you get nominated by someone, the person can accept or decline, and then the following month they wait and see if there are any others, and then the third month, and then they do the actual voting, and then the final month we actually install. So it's not a short process, and it's hard to find people to do some of these additional requirements. It takes almost as much time doing VFW stuff as it does my civilian job.
And there's a lot of, a lot that goes into the post.
Oh,
a lot of things that need to be done. What's a typical day like? Is it 8 hours? Is it 12 hours?
It varies. If I'm not going by the post after work, I talk to the senior vice commander, and on the military side that would be like an executive officer. He's also what we call our bar steward. He'll call me and say, okay, we got these bills, we got this, what about this? And we go over stuff. And then we get together and we meet once a month with the membership, and we get together and we go over stuff that we need to bring up. And then the members, if they want to make motions like any other meeting, they can make a motion. A simple motion could be to donate money someplace. Mm-hmm. Well, that has to be approved by the membership. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we can send out the money. We have to have our bills approved to be paid by the membership. So it's a lot of work. On an average day, I guess, on a quiet average day for the post, I might spend 3 or 4 hours.
And there's, and of course, we saw you at the Pearl Harbor Day service. There's, you're involved with all the services beyond what you spend at the post as well. We certainly appreciate you being at these services and participating. Let's just back up for 1 second. I guess VFW, a lot of people hear that term thrown around. Maybe you could explain a little bit. Most people ask the question, okay, VFW, what exactly does that mean? What's behind it? How did they get to be? How did it become?
VFW is, you started out, is Veterans of Foreign Wars, and there's criteria for that. The individual had to have served in what we call now deployment or a combat area. It has to be an acknowledged war or police action. Originally, the Vietnam vets and the Korean vets were not allowed into the VFW because they weren't classified as wars.
I see.
That changed down the road. The VFW came about because the veterans who served in World War I in Germany and some of these other areas or theater where combat was going had no representation. They had no rights. They were ignored, just as the Vietnam vets were. And they had to fight for everything they got, and it goes back to World War I. Actually, the veterans who went over and fought were promised X number of dollars, and it wasn't a whole lot. It was like $50, but back then that was a lot of money. And the government didn't pay on it for years. And so there was a mass march on Washington, D.C. by World War I vets.
I see.
And the response from Congress and the President at that time was to call the military in to squash this protest by former military. And that is what really egged on and brought about the need for the Veterans of Foreign Wars. You've got the American Legion, and anybody who's served and is discharged honorably can join that. But Veterans of Foreign War, you had to been in a combat area or theater. It has to show up on, as you know, being military yourself, on a DD-214, which is just a form saying that they're discharged with honorable. It lists the newer ones or more current ones, lists the ribbons, awards, where they did duty, and everything else. They've had to, if they were in an area that was classified as a theater area, but it was a area like the waters outside of the Lebanon when the barracks were bombed. Individuals on those ships got combat pay. So they were eligible, and that's how my brother joined, to become a member of the VFW of Veterans of Foreign War. And we got in military, use the acronyms.
Yeah.
Well, people don't understand the acronyms.
Right.
They don't understand that the Veterans of Foreign War are people that said, I will, by raising their hand and have no hesitation to go into those areas of danger. I now understand what my parents went through when I got deployed. My oldest boy is being deployed to Afghanistan. It's still a combat area. We're pulling out slowly, but he will be eligible for the Veterans of Foreign War. To me, it's an honor because I'm with other comrades or veterans who gave me that chance to serve. I mean, they're the ones that protected us first, the World War I, Vietnam, World War II, Korea. If they weren't doing it first, I wouldn't be able to. So I take a lot of pride in the Veterans of Foreign War. The other thing I used to hear, not so much from the younger generation, but some of the older ones, my age group, oh, that's a place where old vets go and drink. Well, we do a lot.
There's a lot more to it than...
Oh, there's a lot more. We are involved with the community. We are there to support our veterans of foreign war. When Superstorm Sandy hit New York, New Jersey, right after that, some of the VFW posts down there opened up. They had generators, and that was a place where people could stop, veterans and non-veterans, to, have some relief, get some food, just place that was warm. So we don't just limit what we do to just the veterans. We expand to the community because the community is part of us.
And it sounds like, and I know that it's part of, and each piece is important, that's part of the community, and you're involved in the parades, you're involved in honoring our veterans, you're involved with all the services, and those things make a difference, especially to those who serve. And it sounds like your family history, you have a lot of people that have served. Yes.
My dad's brother was in Pearl Harbor when it was attacked. And luckily, he was in church and came out, but if he had been at his barracks, he would not survive because the only thing left of the barracks was his Bible. My mom's brother served in Korea. And my grandfather was at camp back then. It was Camp Dix during World War I. So yeah, our family, long history of military, and I'm out of 13 cousins, I'm the only female that joined. I had to break the mold. And I'm the only one out of all the cousins that did join that went to the Army. Now my nephew and my son, my oldest brother's son, was Marine, and now he's Army Reserve. My oldest son is in the Army, and my boys take great pride in the military. My youngest son will get very upset if anybody disrespects the military. And then if they disrespect mom, but military comes first. But I mean, it's something I take great pride in, and I get very upset and frustrated because the school systems don't really talk about Pearl Harbor Day and what that means. They don't really talk about Veterans Day. They really don't talk about Memorial Day. And it's up to the VFW and American Legion and some of these other disabled veterans to ensure that it's taught. And one of the ways the VFW, or the Veterans of Foreign War, does it is they have essays, which you got to
Yes.
judge last year. One is called Voice of Democracy, and that's for junior high and high school kids. And each level they go to county, then district, then state, and if they make it to state, then they go to national. And each level has a little bit of a monetary incentive, because these kids are taking time out doing something that's considered unusual and strange, and writing what they feel about veterans, the military, and paying honor and respecting those of us who've served. And national level, it's a $30,000 bond that these kids can put towards a higher education. But it's up to us, and we have a ladies auxiliary who are very active with the Voice of Democracy. And unfortunately, they have the cutoff of when they're due so close to the beginning of school year that a lot of kids miss out. But the schools aren't even pushing it.
And if schools wanted to get involved, would they just contact you directly, or?
They could call the Post 1895. They can contact me, and I would put them in contact with the Ladies Auxiliary, who really run that program for us, and they do an excellent job.
Okay.
We work very close with the Ladies Auxiliary. I am very fortunate to have such an active Ladies Auxiliary.
And I do have a website, www.vfw.org, very simple.
And that's the national level one. And if someone's looking for a particular state, they have a search where you can hit state.
Okay.
And it hits the state, and it gives the point of contact at the state office, which happens to be right here in Albany on Sand Creek Road. And then if they want to look for a particular post, they can put up the city or the zip code they're in, and it will direct them to a post that's close to them.
And I'm sure there's contact information there, but before the show we talked about a good number, 518-382-1669.
Right, that's for the post itself. I usually get the messages.
Okay.
And I have business cards, and I'm always pushing the VFW. The other thing the VFW is very involved in, as you found out recently, is we're very active with legislative bodies, with the state level and the national level. We're one of the few organizations that don't have lobbyists. So when people from the VFW go, it's actual VFW members.
I see.
And there's called a GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill. The reason that came about was the state commander or national commander both talked to the president. And the president at that time, which was President Bush, had promised that yes, we would get it through, and we got it. And that's a benefit that those who have served in Iraq, Kuwait, Afghanistan have, an educational benefit that they can transfer to their children if they don't need it. Like back Vietnam area, they had the GI Bill. It's basically the same type of setup, and it's helpful because education is very expensive.
It is, and it's getting more expensive.
And so, I mean, that's some of the things we do. They're always fighting for bills. They're fighting to keep our retirement the way it is. We're still getting a lot of resistance. I mean, we reach out. We're fighting for the soldiers now, those who are serving now, because they're the ones that are going to be more affected by the change in retirement plan, and the ones who have served. And, you know, the numbers right now, we have lower membership than the AARP. Now, I'm a member of both, but I think the AARP uses some lobbyists, but we need our numbers up so we can continue to fight for these rights that we've worked so hard to get and to protect our future soldiers. Vietnam vets. They are starting to really get what they deserve as far as medical care and benefits. And that's because of the VFW. So I really encourage anybody who is deployed, Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, to join. They can join 30 days after they're in theater. And it's important they know this, because if they don't join, then we can't give a voice.
Right.
And it's sad. And then the ones that say, well, we want to do our own group, some of the Iraqi veterans in Afghanistan, join a VFW that gives you a stronger voice. And post 1895, if a group from Afghanistan or Iraq want to have their own little group within the post, they definitely will have a space.
Yeah.
I will not deny anybody that. They work just as hard as any other vet in the past. We sponsor units that are over there. We sponsor soldiers. We send them care packages. And being over there, I know sometimes those care packages,
Yeah.
those little Ritz crackers that come in
Yes,
individual
yes.
packages, we may not think a whole lot of it, but I'll tell you, that was a treat. Girl Scout cookies was a treat. Those got gobbled up so fast because it's something from home.
Right. That's right.
And that's so important. I said, as a mom, I'm starting to understand what my parents went through. And, you know, it's a long time there. You know, yeah, you got the communications, you got the internet, but it's still hard because you can't be there for Christmas.
Right. The holidays are
You
tough.
can't. I couldn't be there for Mother's Day, and that killed me. So they do overseas allow, and some radio stations and TV stations across the country will accept little blurbs. And I did a videotaping wishing my daughter and her son and my son-in-law and their kids a Merry Christmas, and then my parents, and then my in-laws. But I mean, that was something, and I got feedback that made them so happy to have that. And then for Mother's Day, I got to talk to my mom for 45 minutes. They could see me, but I couldn't see them, and I would love to have seen them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was something
It makes a
that
difference.
kept me going,
Yeah.
kept me going. And it would keep any soldier going if they could have that contact.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
The main thing is to get involved and
Definitely.
to community members and people that have served.
get involved, make a voice, find a VFW. If you can't find one, Angelo has my information, and he'll put you in contact
Yeah.
with me, and I will anything in my power to help you find a post. We got 2 posts here in Schenectady. There was one in Dwaynesburg, almost 100 years old, and they had to close their doors due to membership issues, not having enough. So they're joining us. But don't think it's an old man, old woman place to go and drink. We do a lot. We have Halloween party for the community kids. We have a Santa's breakfast for the community kids.
Yes.
We have an Easter egg hunt for the community kids. We do car washes for Special Olympics. We do spaghetti dinner for March of Dimes, and then we go on the March of Dimes walk. So we are and then the Ladies Auxiliary go to the VA hospital in Albany. We're there to help, and we want to help our vets, but they need to come out, let us know. We're still waiting for that old school down the street from us to be made into apartments for disabled vets. We don't know when that's going to happen. But that'd be 120 some apartments for disabled vets that they could need, because they've got their own issues. You've got
Right.
PTSD, you've got injuries that are caused by their service.
And for those that don't know, the post, 1895, is at 609 Draper Avenue, and the building you're talking about is right down.
It's down
Right
at
down
the
the
other
road.
end of the street. It's Old Draper School. It's an old elementary school.
And that's an excellent way to reuse a building that's already there.
All they have to do, my understanding is they're going to basically dig out the shell and just keep the shell and just redo the inside.
And the location is perfect, close to the post.
And it gives them a way to get assistance if they need it. You know, we do defensive driving. We do a lot of stuff, and I wish the younger generation, my son's generation, steps up, come out, join a VFW, give yourself a voice. If you're not sure you make the requirements, you can go on to the VFW site, and it will tell you what those requirements are.
And that site, just one more time, www.vfw.org, and it sounds like it could lead you to pretty much any post in the
country.
In the country.
Literally in the country. And
so if people get a chance, they could call it. They could even stop in 609 Draper Avenue. They could stop in. Your hours, are their hours of operation?
Mondays the post is closed, and that's when we do a lot of our off-the-side business, the administrative stuff. The bar is open Tuesday through Sunday, opens at 1, and during the week it may close as early as 8. On the weekends we may close as late as 3, depending on how busy it is. If you go in and you want to talk to me, they know how to get a hold of me. They have my phone number, they have my cell. My dad and my husband just shake their heads because the phone will ring and it's like, okay, it's a post, I've got to take care of this.
Right.
Or I run over to the post. I mean, I'm less than 5 minutes away from the post. I'm within walking distance. And I mean, we work with other organizations, as you know. We do an honor guard, and what the honor guard is if a post member dies, and I don't limit it to the post members. If a veteran dies, and we look more towards those who are VFW eligible, we will do an honor guard, and what that is someone stands at the head of the casket at parade rest, and we do it in increments of time, and people switch out, and that's honoring that person's service, that person. It's showing respect and honor to the family, and we do that. We do the firing detail for the parade, for the Veterans Day ceremony in Rotterdam. We've walked in the Flag Day parade that Rotterdam has. We've walked in several parades, and we started off with our honor guard carrying the flag, and we take pride in that. But we may have to cut back on some of that because you can only ask someone to do it so many times. We need people to be able to switch out.
Need people to get involved, people from the community, and also almost after every service, I think after every service, there's always an open house that
we usually have an open house at the post.
I've attended, and it's a great place to meet other veterans, to meet members of the community that are involved with the post.
Most definitely. I enjoy meeting other veterans. I enjoy meeting the ones that served before me because I learn from them. Our younger vets learn from them. My youngest vet, and he's a truck driver, is 25. Next young, he's in reserves, and he works under me during the drill weekends. And he joined. He's on the honor guard. He comes when I need him. And he takes pride in it, and he's involved in the colleges have these veterans clubs, and they don't understand what the veterans of foreign war are. So hopefully, my goal is to educate.
Yeah.
I've done this for 2 years now.
This is your second
Second
year.
It doesn't seem like it, does it?
For the military people watching at home, your rank Sergeant First Class?
Sergeant First Class, E7.
E7. And you have 16 years of active duty?
16 years active duty, working on my 18th year reserves. I will be doing this until I turn 60 or they kick me out, whichever is first. I love the military. I'm very proud of the military. I met my husband through the military, my kids, and they'll laugh. I raised them up with the military standards. When they screwed up, it was front and center now, and the tone they knew was, okay, we're in real trouble. My mother did not like the phrase shut up, so it was at ease.
Right, okay.
So they've gotten used to the military jargon, and I was very strict, and my mother even told me that I was too strict with the kids. But it gave a continuity, and they learned respect for those who've served, those who are serving. They learned respect for themselves. And today, I look, and it's sad to see, but the kids today, a lot of them don't even have self-respect, so how can they respect someone else? But I mean, my kids learned from me, and one's carrying on the tradition, which I'm pretty proud of. And he decided this several years ago, and he talked to me. He says, "Mom, I want to do this." And I said, "Fine, then this is the recruiter I want you to talk to."
Right.
He talked to the recruiter, and they didn't realize, and he joined 2 years later. So I missed his graduation from high school, but I was serving, so he was okay with that for the most part.
Now, I did basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Now, just curious, where was yours?
I joined in '77 when they still had the Women's Army Corps,
Okay.
which was disbanded or gotten rid of completely in February of '78. And basic training for me was at Fort McClellan, Alabama, which
Okay.
the Army, active duty Army, sold the base to the National Guard, Alabama National Guard. So it's like an eighth of a size of what it was when I went through. And that's
Okay.
where the Women's Army Corps did their basic, but I didn't do it with the Women's Army Corps. I did it with one of the first one-station unit training, the OSIT, as you may be familiar with. It was military police, so I was doing something that was totally outside what was considered acceptable for women. And my father let me know that when I first joined. And I went through basic there. I went through AIT there, Advanced Individual Training. And
what was your MOS?
Was military police I went through originally. I got off active duty and I went into the reserves. I was reserves for a year. And I got aerial surveillance, which is military intelligence.
Okay.
And the joke in the military is that's a contradiction of terms. At times, yeah, that can be, depending on the individual. Then I went active duty for the reserves and did administrative specialist. Then I got back into straight reserves and did medical combat medic. Then I switched over and went to a drill sergeant unit on the reserve side and got my civilian position with reserves and became a bridge crew member, which is where you learn to hook the floating bridges together, and it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. You have to learn to drive a couple pieces of equipment that put those floating bridges in the water. And then I went back to being an administrative, now they call it human resources NCOs.
Well, and I know it's quite a bit of history there, and I wish we had more time, but I think we're just about out of time. But I want to thank you for being on the show again. Ginger Kusek, VFW Post 1895 in my hometown of Rotterdam. I'm going to give out that website, www.vfw.org. If you have any more questions, please feel free to contact her directly at the post, 382-1669. And the address is 609 Draper Avenue. Look for open houses at pretty much every...
I'm hoping to have one in a few months for just the general public. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. As you know, this has been a big thing for me. I've cornered you a few times at the open
we
houses.
got to talk. Yeah.
And I think it was an education for you.
Yes, absolutely.
As to what's going on with the military and what the VFW can do for the vets.
Yeah, I'm happy.
And the soldiers that are serving today. So
I'm happy to be involved. I want to thank you for your service as well as all of our veterans. And I want to thank them for their service, and I want to thank you for your dedication and leading the post forward. And hopefully we'll get some more community involvement as time goes on. And
nice.
We'll have to have you back on the show. Maybe we'll give it a little bit of time and see if we get some more programs going and some more things happening.
I'd love it. It's an honor to be asked to come on here. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the post, to the other vets that are there with me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And look for us again when we have a new show next month. Thank you.